This is the instructional how-to video for the Caron concession trailer. We'll be able to show the features of everything running in your trailer, plus the shutdown procedure as well. I want to go ahead and go over the crank jacks. Before using the crank jacks, make sure that you chalk or block the wheels in such a way that there can be no movement, because once you put pressure and lift up the trailer on one side or the other for leveling purposes, if there is any movement in the trailer and momentum for the trailer itself due to the weight, those tires can move, those jacks can fold and break. They will not be covered under any warranty. Seen that happen before. I've had it happen here personally in the parking lot just from not blocking the tires the right way. Both of your propane tanks are empty. However, I do have a live tank for the testing and making of this video. Light switch for the rear light here at the rear door. Driver's side rear plug. This counter here is not fixed in place. It is movable as you had requested. Got your fridge here at 31 degrees. About TOSA, unstrap, have access to the fridge itself. Front wheels are locked in place. This will allow you a couple of different things, be able to make sure, because this lock will not hold all product in place if you were to turn a curve. So with this, it allows you two things. One, be able to strap the door so nothing opens up. Two, in your compressors up top, it's going to need to be cleaned periodically. Be able to unstrap, be able to move this unit around as needed, but just make sure that you do strap it back in place so that it does not move. Control button power, look at it here. As you will see, how the lights are actually lit itself. All of this is in the off position. So for lighting the equipment, first thing we're going to do is make sure that we always have the hood system on before the gas is turned on. Secondary is we're going to make sure that all of the equipment is in the off position. Third thing you're going to do is, regardless if you're using the driver's side tank or the passenger side tank, you'll turn the tank on, activating pressure to the line. Now this valve is going to be off on the initial startup. Whichever side you're using, again, the valve is going to be off here. So the most important thing you can do at that point, regardless of what side you're using, is listening to the two-stage regulator. So when you open this line up, it's a quarter turn, you should hear nothing more than the line charge itself, which is simply shh, and that's it. If you have continuous gas flow coming through this regulator or the other regulator, either one of them, immediately shut this valve off and contact your local gas company to come out and inspect the piping below the trailer. This is a fair warning if you have gas coming through. This will keep you from getting hurt. Again, on initial startup is when you have to pay attention to these regulators. It is a telltale sign that if you have gas coming through here, you have an issue. You should not have gas coming through whatsoever. The amount that's coming out for the pilot lights, as I just shown, you will not be able to hear. But if you have one of those burners or multiple burners open, you'll be able to hear gas coming through. So again, if you know the equipment's in the off position and you have the hood system on, secondary part would be this line that runs and hugs the frame of the trailer. Things such as spare tires, blocks of wood, concrete, rocks, anything, pothole deep enough can hit that line and damage and break it. As long as you hear nothing more than the line charge, you're good to come inside. At that point, you're going to use lighters like this. You will never force light any of this equipment. This always stays in the off position until you make sure that you have those pallets lit. As you see, each and every one of them, you're going to light. That's how you properly and safely light your 6-burner cooktop. Now you'll see that we have metal baling wire that wraps these burners to the frame on each one of them. Do not remove this wire. Eventually, due to excessive heat, it will break. Once it does break, put more metal wire, take a pair of pliers, twist it, and then cut it, push it over. That way you can utilize it at all times. Again, do not remove it until it breaks. Replace with more metal wire. That way you do not have to worry about your burners coming off the unit in transport itself. There is a drip tray you will need to monitor daily as well. For the griddle, same situation. This always stays in the off position. You'll administer fire to the bottom of this flexible tube on each side. As long as you can assure that you can see that pilot light lit on each side, you're good at that point to then turn your burners on to the desired temp as needed. You will have a grease catch-all pan. I would mount it to that daily as well. You'll need to read over the manual for proper cleaning and maintenance of all of the equipment, especially the griddle top itself, and then being able to season it in. Be very careful with your heat. As hot as this can be, so can this, and this mechanism here can, after some time, can burn you if not careful. Definitely some wet rags would help on that. I'm going to show you the fryer operating, and then I will shut it down and explain how to light it. And then you'll see the thermal pile lit. You'll see this in the off position, but you're going to see this in the on position. So on initial startup, again, this is going to be off, this is going to be off. Here's how I always start up fryers after transportation. I do this twice to make sure this thermostat connects with this gas valve. At that point, I rotate to where the L meets the red dot and allows you to push in. Push and hold here, and administer fire to the thermopile. Once that thermopile is lit, continue to hold this pilot button in for 10 to 15 seconds. Once you can slowly release your pilot button here and keep a steady flame on your thermopile, then activate to the on position, and when ready, come back to the thermostat, fire up to the temp it's needed. Just make sure that you do turn both of these back to the off position at the end of the day. There's a drain tube in the packet for the deep fryer that threads into here. Allows you to open up and drain the contents of the fryer. The important part of that is you have to drain this every time you go into transportation. Do not transport with oil in the vat. It will splash out everywhere and make a big mess. Before I turn the gas off, I want to go ahead and show you the water heater itself. This is the gauge for the water heater. You seen that flame just come on? That's the igniter for the heater itself. You'll be able to see that temperature rise. Again, that's just with the hot water side itself. It's going to max out at 124 degrees, which is what it's at. On your initial startup, if you don't see that flame and you see an error code, there's air in the line, you would turn this back off, give it 10 seconds, turn it back on, and you'll see it kick on. There's that flame. That's the igniter itself. Go ahead and turn that gas off both locations. As I would always instruct, if you're finished, business is closed, transportation, always need to have that gas turned off. Do not leave it on. You do have your fire suppression set up in place for the equipment that it is covering. These filters are removable. I do want to go over the filters, cleaning, hot water and a mild soap or mild degreaser. Make sure that you wash thoroughly, rinse thoroughly, and allow adequate time for drying before going back into service. Also behind those filters are heat sensors for the fire suppression. If the heat is to build up too much because the hood fan is off, those sensors pop and everything that's in that red tank comes emitting out of those nozzles. That's one dangerous side. The other side is the carbon monoxide that's burnt off of propane itself, which can kill you. So again, when propane, before it's ever turned on, make sure the hood system's on and never use the equipment for a heat source in the winter time itself. It's a very dangerous matter. Nobody other than a licensed fire suppression company needs to tamper with the fire suppression nozzles or links behind. Once you do get this back to your hometown state, you'll need to have your local fire suppression and fire marshal come out and tag and certify the system itself. Interior and exterior light switches located here. D-rings as indicated you would wanted those. You can see the separation in the stainless steel, the difference in the stainless here and aluminum mill finish here. For the roof vents, definitely open those up as needed to allow adequate airflow to come in. Just make sure that you do close those back down before transportation, as crosswinds can damage and break the roof vents. Again, paperwork for the equipment, fire suppression, the griddle, the 6-burner. This is for the deep fryer, the paperwork, the legs, which we don't need, and the drain tube itself. that's in this packet here, plus your keys for your doors itself. Definitely, again, take time to read over the packet for the equipment. Again, these, you want to rotate and shut these down. That way, once you hear them click down, you will know that they are closed properly. Sometimes they do make the noise, sometimes they don't. Go. We'll try this one again. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go over the wastewater itself. So removing the cap and hooking up a 3-inch RV waste hose to this mechanism here. And then at that point you can pull this gate valve and allow the product to rid out of the wastewater tank. Once that is finished, do close that back up, remove the hose, and put the cap back on in place. I do want to mention that periodically you want to put some bleach in the drains for the wastewater tank itself. So put them in the drains and the sinks. That way it flows down to the wastewater tank. Due to excessive heat and smell when it's 100 degrees outside, for your own benefit. Got the water pump switch. The water heater switch located here. So O's for the off position, I's for the on position. Once you turn that on, that tells the brain up top inside where the thermostat is how to function, when to turn the igniter on. Just make sure that's back to the off position. City water fill box above. This is for filling your freshwater tank and using the water pump. This is the pressurized water itself. I'm on the pressurized side itself right this second. Again, if you want to use the water tank and water pump, you're going to a place that doesn't have pressurized water, you could do so through this port. Just put your food grade water hose in there, or again, connecting the food grade water hose here, disconnecting the water pump, and you can bypass that tank. Periodically, you're going to need to put some bleach or sanitizer in the freshwater tank for cleaning purposes. And this is plugging in the water pump itself. You've got your tank valve at the far back side. You have your drain valve for the tank located here, and then you have your winterization valve for blowing the system out here. This is the shutoff for the gas line itself to the water heater only. As you can see, your freshwater tank, got it level there. Testing. 100 amp panel, all 20 amp independent circuits. Beside that is your battery charger, your fuse panel for the 12 volt lighting system, and your battery for the 12 volt lighting system. Again, crank jacks, use them as needed. Just make sure that you block and scotch those tires. It is a 3/4 inch socket, and an impact gun would definitely help for that purpose itself. Your doors have door catches on them to be able to hold those back. That way your screens, you can leave the door open, and screens, you're not having to worry about the door itself going back and forth. Just make sure that at the end of the day, that all power draw that can be, whether it's lights, the hood system, anything plugged in that's loose items is unplugged and put in a safe transportation spot. Make sure those roof vents are closed. Make sure those doors are secured and locked. Disconnect your water source. Again, make sure that water heater is turned off because it's 12 volt as well for the brain mechanism. Make sure you disconnect that wastewater hose and plug that cap back on. As always, before transportation, make sure the lug nuts are always tight. Make sure you have adequate air pressure in the tire. Once a year, you'll need to remove this rubber cap and apply grease to the Zerk fitting behind on each wheel. That way you have long-lasting bearing life itself. Definitely want to do that once a year. If you want to do it twice a year, by all means, please do so. For shutdown, again, making sure those lights are off as well. Make sure lug nuts, make sure adequate air pressure. Remove those crank jacks to an upright position. Not over tightening those, just once you get to upright position, they will stop there. Again, don't forget that light here on the very back of the unit itself. Make sure the doors are, again, all shut and locked and latched. We provide straps for the propane tanks. Make sure you always have a strap on them so they don't move around. If you want to put a lock on them, lock the cages, lock the tanks in place, by all means do so. Never transport with propane on, going inside the trailer, going down the road. Everything needs to be off, tanks and lines itself. Make sure that your tail lights, blinkers, and running lights are always working. If your power cord is disconnected or connected to shore power, as mine is, disconnect and put back in the trailer safely. Using the middle of this as a reference point, you can use this screw. Pressing upward allows that to rotate back to a down position. Same thing going back up. Once you get to a 90 degrees position, pressing upward allows those pins to roll to an outward position. So every time that you press up, it's rolling outward. Press up again, it's rolling outward again to allow it to go back down. Only do that in the center of that flip up counter itself. If you do it on one side or the other, it will throw those off balance, and it's not that it can't be fixed, it just takes a little bit of time. Make sure that that door is always shut and latched and locked for transportation as well. Thank you for taking the time to view this video. Make these videos to help show the customer their product before they get it, but also to show the proper way of lighting the gas equipment. That's first and foremost the safety for the gas, because it's highly explosive. Again, do not chance anything. The initial startup, again, you should hear nothing more than the line charge itself. So again, if you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We want you to watch these videos to help you better understand your trailer, or if any employees are new to coming on the trailer, have them watch it for safety concerns. We thank you so much for your business and wish you the very best.